Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn about this book. But you instantly knew the movie or the book that I was talking about. Isn't that funny? The book was written in 1936. It won a Pulitzer Prize in 1937. 1939, they made a movie out of it and it won 8 Oscars, including the first Black American person to win a Best Supporting Role, and it just so happened to be a woman. Yes, we're talking about Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind. Hi, y'all. Welcome to Boozy B's Books and Cocktails. I'm Dana B, and we're here to talk about Gone with the Wind and Miss Scarlett and Mr. Rhett Butler. And then we're going to make a cocktail to match the book, and it's called the Scarlett O'Hara. And we will get into that after we get done talking about the book. So, if you're not familiar with this story, it was set in the Civil War time, and it was about a young woman from the South, and she was a very privileged woman. Her dad owned lots of land and had slaves, and they worked the land, and she was just this very spoiled, rotten girl. And she was the belle of the ball, and all the young men loved her, and she had the pick of whichever one that she wanted, and her pick was Ashley Wilkes, but he was promised to another woman named Melanie. And so then the Civil War happens, and the North and the South start to fight. And so all the men go off to war, and it leaves the women at home to fend for themselves. And Scarlett had never had to do any of that. So this is a story of resilience and of grit. And it is a very interesting story. And I have read the book 3 times. I watched it in 1976 when it came out as a series on television. And then I watched it on VHS numerous times. And then in 2016, I listened to it on Audible. And I believe on Audible it was 54 hours long. It was either 54 or 45 hours long. I'll have to go back and check that. If anyone's checking me, let me know. But it was a long, long book. And I read it I was probably 12 right before the book or the movie came out. I can't remember exactly the sequence that I read it in. I don't know if I can't remember if I read the book right after I watched the movie or watched the movie and then read the book. But as a young teenage girl, I can remember it was all about the relationship between Scarlett and Rhett. None of the other stuff made any it didn't click with me. And all I saw was the plantations, the romance between Scarlett and Rhett, and how wonderful Rhett Butler was. And he was the bad boy, and he fell in love with this girl. And he would have done anything for her, and she kind of rejects him throughout the book because of her love for Ashley Wilkes. So then in my late 20s and early 30s, I read it again, and it meant something completely different to me at that time. And it was more about what Scarlett did and didn't do, and just the whininess of Ashley Wilkes, and I the way I compared him to Rhett Butler. And then I I couldn't quite understand, but I did understand. I had a family then, and so I kind of understood the grit behind Scarlett and her wanting to make sure that her and her family didn't starve. And she had never faced that before. She had never had to work in the fields, and she had never had to weed the garden, and she never had to worry about it being planted because she had slaves. And she used that position a lot throughout the book and the movie. And she let everyone know that she was who she was. And but by the end, she did she did struggle through a lot of things. And so at the end, of course, she exhausted me, and just her infatuation with Ashley Wilkes, and knowing that once she got him, she would realize that he was not the right one for her, because she needed someone to um, not be able to push around. And I think that that was one of the things that I took away from it. So then, when in 2016, when I listened to it on Audible, when I go to work, I ride in the car, drive in the car, um, 35 miles both ways. So I have a long time to be able to listen to Audible books, and I absolutely love Audible. But this one was pretty hard to listen to because of the language, the derogatory language that was used, the slang language that was used, the southern draw that was used. And so it really put um, me in a mindset, I guess, of the slaves. And I had not ever felt that way before. And so I often even wondered, I was kind of scared that I would stop at a stoplight and someone would hear the language that was coming out of my car, because I don't agree with that kind of language, but it is part of that culture and that story that was being told, especially at that time. Where the controversy comes in for me and for others is how Margaret Mitchell wrote the book, and I understand it at the time. This was the way people saw it, that these privileged people owned these people as property, and they were there to serve them. What it doesn't get into is the cruelty that was done during that time to these people, the sheer brutality, the humiliation that was done to these people. I My heart broke when I read this book, and it still breaks for when I read things about this time, and the way that um, the slaves were treated, and on and on and on and on. And so it was very hard for me to take it all in. And as an older person reading this book, and I was in my late 50s when or mid 50s, I guess, when I read this book. And it was just put me in a spin, because I had never really thought about that part of the story. I'd always been so transfixed with Rhett and Scarlett and Melanie and Ashley. And so I truly, truly enjoyed it, to the depths of my soul, which I had enjoyed it anyway, but it was just so interesting for me to see it from all points of view, from the first screening on television to the reading the book, and then getting to see it anytime I wanted to on VHS tapes, and now it's streaming, and then to actually have it read to me on Audible. It just really gave me different perspectives of the book, and I have so enjoyed it. I would put it on the very kind of tippy top of my books, just because it's 90 years old and it's still being read. It's being talked about. It's being, so what an accomplishment for Margaret Mitchell. And so, some fun facts about it. Like I said, and I had to make myself a list just so that I could tell you guys about it. So, it came out in, as I said, in a movie in 1939. They released it on television November 1976. We were celebrating the bicentennial at that time. And so I guess that was one of the reasons they put it out. I'm not really sure what I was 12 years old, so I was all about some romance, and Rhett Butler just was the guy for me. Let me tell you. It was released 40 years after it was written, 37 years after it debuted. It came out in the movies, won a Pulitzer Prize, had 8 Oscars, and so now it's turning 90 years old, and it is still a great book. But as I have become more culturally aware, and then listening to it on Audible, it has a completely different meaning for me. So, saying all that, we had to have a cocktail to go with it, and so this one is called Scarlett O'Hara. It is very simple. It is Southern Comfort whiskey, some cranberry juice, some lime, and then some ice, and that is it. So we're going to mix it up. I've already got my ice in my shaker. And Southern Comfort to me is very, very sweet. And I forget. So it's 2 ounces of Southern Comfort. Got to get my glasses adjusted to where I can read the little lines. And then we're going to do 2 ounces of cranberry juice. And I had the low calorie cranberry juice, so that's good. Then we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Put all this aside and put the lids on it, because you know me, it's going to flop around here. Then we're going to give it a good shake. We're going to add some ice to my Waterford tumbler. You know me, I love my Waterford. So we're going to give it a shake. Have you read this book before? It's a long book, but it's a very interesting book to me. So we're going to strain this off into this Waterford tumbler. It's very pretty. If we had a peacock feather or maybe a pineapple frond, that'd be pretty. Did y'all see that Carol Burnett, when she did the spinoff of Gone with the Wind? It's probably one of my favorite Carol Burnett skits. So cheers. Sweet and tart, just like Scarlett O'Hara. That's good. Real good. All right. Well, let us never forget the history of our country, and let us never go back to the way people behaved back then. And I hope you'll let me know if you've read Gone with the Wind, if it was something that brought up the memories of you when you were in your teens. And did you love Rhett Butler, or were you an Ashley fan? Or Charles. Charles was one of her ex-husbands. So there's 3 of them right there that you could choose from. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Just some news. I was nominated for 4 RCAST Podcast Awards. So we should be hearing about how I did. But I was just so thrilled to be nominated. So thank you very, very much. Cheers. And here's to times that are gone, and hope we never go back to them. Cheers.
Cheers.